Hello and welcome to Dice Jesters. My name is Julie.
And my name is Dave.
And we are a merry and whimsical board gaming podcast where we dive deep into games with curious minds and a jester's grin. We feature 10 by 10 challenges where each season we commit to playing 10 games at least 10 times and sometimes much more. And today we'll be discussing our 7th game in our current 10 by 10, which is Pax Illuminaten. So,
yes.
Yeah, I had guessed this game in our previous episode about genotype, and then Dave set it up, Dave read the rules, and I'm ready to learn. You haven't told me anything about it, though, other than the prologue of it, and of course, just kind of my first little glimpse into it. I don't know if you wanted me to just kind of go over my first impression. You're like, you sound excited about this. I'm like, I'm ready.
I could go into why I selected this game and a little bit about that before you get into what it looked like on the table.
Okay.
So this is a game that I came across because I've looked at different types of games that I've wanted us to get into and try, and I like us to try a variety of games. We've kind of gravitated toward mid-weight Euros, and I know that there's a lot of games out there that expand beyond that, like cooperative games, or we've never played like a war game or anything like combat heavy or anything deeply thematic. And I've wanted to get into games that have more history behind them. And there's this whole line of games that have the word Pax in their title. There's like Pax Renaissance, Pax Premier, a whole bunch of different ones. And I've wanted to try those for a really long time. They're kind of known for being on the heavier side, a little bit of a barrier to entry in terms of complexity of the rules to wrap your head around and learn. And when I was looking at ones that we could potentially try, I saw that there was one that was about the Illuminati. And I thought that's really awesome because I've long been fascinated by the history of the Illuminati, or I mean, just the general conspiracy theories and stuff, but the role that they've played or have been reported to have played in society and so forth. So I thought that was fitting to just things that we're interested in. And then I saw that it's a card game. So it seemed to me, looking at doing some research on Board Game Geek, seeing that it was only at a 3.06 weight complexity rating. I know that those are subjective, but that gave me a good sense of, okay, this might be an easier game for us to get into to see if that whole series of games are for us. Yeah, that's how we're here. But now that I set it up, I've read the rules and everything, set it up, and curious what your thoughts are just looking at the game on the table.
Just looking at the game on the table with the different components and everything, I get that's kind of like maybe a chessboard in a way. It's just a guess, but maybe I flip a card over closer to me and you flip a card over closer to you because there's different color components, and maybe those different color components are similar to the major pieces in chess, and maybe depending on what I flip over, I can play said component onto that card, maybe? I don't know, just thoughts. And then the other aspect of the game that stood out so far without going into all the cards because you had set it up, so I didn't want to mess up, but I kind of feel like I'm about to sign the Declaration of Independence with the artwork and stuff. Yeah, with the artwork, and one of the cards that's flipped over right now has a bunch of individuals dressed up like, is it colonial?
Like colonial era,
yeah,
because it actually takes place 1776 in Bavaria, but same time period if you're thinking of the Revolutionary War.
Yeah. So they all have the powdered wigs, right, the suits with the tails on it, which honestly, those suits are cool. I don't know why they ever went away.
Where did they go?
Right, where did they go? Why are they not part of the fashion anymore? But that's kind of what I'm getting. And then looking at the cards, they are pretty detailed. I didn't read any of the cards just because I am impatient and I kind of want to get into the first place, but they look as if they have information about something, whether that's about the game or the person in general. Speaking of person, they do look like they're historical figures to at least the Illuminati because I believe that they have actual names on there. I didn't see any names that I am familiar with right off the bat, but looking at it, I'm just like, okay, I see where this is going. So yeah, there's that.
Saw some historical text on the cards too.
Yeah, so that's super cool. It appears as well as the portion that I just described, but it also kind of looks like, based off the components as well, that you're kind of bribing people to be on your side. And honestly, it looks as if because chess is controlling the board, right? This looks as if you're controlling whatever outcome it is that you need to control. I think I didn't flip over my starter card, but maybe my starter card gives my goal, I guess. And we may each have different goals, and based off of what card gets flipped over, we're going to play on that a little different to get our goal, and then whoever gets closer to our goal wins.
Well, you've gotten some of those points correct. Not all of them, but you were right that we have our own secret, they're called plot cards of things that we're trying to do. But then there are 2 public plot cards as well that either of us can go for. So you can do just the public ones, or you can do one in your hand and one public one. But there is some hidden information. And then the game has all of these flipped face down cards that will get replaced, or there'll be face up cards in the middle. And we're really trying to exert our influence over those different historical figures in order to have them on our side.
Okay.
And you're trying to get like people in a row, and then the people are part of different factions and abilities and stuff that give you resources. So there's whole like resource management aspect of it as well. So
are we on separate sides?
We are on separate sides, but working toward the same goal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, kind of like a race. You're both trying to finish, but one's trying to finish first.
Right. And I read that one of the classic aspects of a PAX game is that there's a shared map where nothing's really owned by any player, but they can switch sides. And one moment they can be loyal to my side, and then the next moment you can go in and take over, and now they're loyal to your side. So it is like chess-like. And in fact, in PAX Renaissance, I haven't played the game, but they actually have chess pieces that you use to move around a map. So it's kind of symbolic. But I've read the rules, and we can explain what the game actually is after we come back and describe our first play. But in general, my experience learning the rules before teaching you, I will say the rule book was pretty detailed, and it was easy to read through. I will say that it took me... I read through it a few times, and then this is the first time I've actually gone and watched a how to play video all the way through. And I felt like that was kind of necessary just to wrap my head around. And I know everybody has their different learning styles and so forth, but I believe that this game, once you have somebody at the table who understands it, it'll be easy for somebody to learn it, because I don't think you need to learn everything that's in the rulebook to play the game. This is just my perception before playing it. But I think it could be an easy game to learn, but if you have somebody who's willing to put the time into reading the rules and stuff to give that teaching experience, it shouldn't be too bad in terms of being a complex experience.
So what you're saying is that now that you've watched all of this, it should be a pretty easy learn.
I think so.
You're like long.
Well, the one thing, like looking at the table, is each player has this card in front of them that once, like now that I've read through the rules and everything, looking at it, it does a pretty good job spelling out exactly what you can do on your turn and just the right information that you would need to understand what you can do. But me knowing that in the rules, there's a lot of nuances and situations that can come up that somebody needs to know how to deal with. And you don't need to know that to play the game, to get started. You just need to know like those basic things on a turn. But me knowing that, I can help guide us through the game when things come up. I can fill in those gaps to make it. I'm hoping this will be a good experience, because I've tried to learn your style, just give you enough information to get started, but not too much, and then allow you to ask questions as we play. So you'll probably have questions, but I'm here to answer them.
Okay, well then let's get into our first round and play. And we are back after 2 initial plays. We decided to do 2 instead of 1 because one left me with questions.
And the second left you with?
I feel like I know how to play it now. Minus the oust and the extort.
Or is it the...
No, it's oust and something else.
Oust and...
When you change your cards.
Extract? No.
Extract. Yeah, I think it's extract.
Exchange. It's the one where you exchange the card, right?
I think it's extract, yeah. I think you're right. But yeah.
We almost got it.
Those are the only ones that I haven't tried yet in both rounds that we had played. And I'm excited to get back into it. I do kind of feel like my prediction so far in the first little segment of this episode is correct, where I said it's kind of chess-like, because it kind of is. You take control of a certain portion of the cards, kind of like, it's like a playing board in a way. Those are the cards that's the structure that you have to be within. It's not like you can add cards outside of it, and you want to take control prior to the other person. If that other person has control, you have to find a way to exile them out. Yeah.
Exile, maybe that's the word we're looking for.
I don't know.
Exile.
I think the whatever you said earlier, extort or something.
Well, should we explain? We didn't explain at the beginning what the game actually is and what we're doing. Would you like to take the honors as the chief Illuminati officer?
No.
The CIO.
I don't even know how to explain it.
Okay, I'll try to explain it. So in this game, we are playing the role of these high-ranking Illuminati leaders. And you're trying to... Essentially, the goal of the game is to be the first person to complete 2 of these objective cards.
Yeah, the plot cards.
The plot cards. You have one in your hand that's secret, and then there are 2 that are public. So on your turn, you have 6 different actions that you can do. And I can't remember the name of them off the top of my head, but basically what they do is they allow you to expose cards from the main... The board is just a whole layout of upside down, flipped over cards. So you can reveal one of those cards into your hand and exchange it with a face-up one back from your hand onto the main board. And then that whole board, eventually the map will fill in with these different Illuminati leaders. And each card has a spot where you can place an influence marker, or 2 or 3. And when you have influence on a card, that does a couple of things. It gives you access to the type of influence, the resources in the game, the faction resource, I'll call it, because there are 6 different faction colors in the game, and each leader can be part of multiple of these factions. And so when you have an influence marker on there, it gives you access to those resources, and it also expands your network. And you want to have control of these. They're called lodges, which are adjacent cards where they are all of the same. They all share one faction in common. And if you have at least 3 influence markers in that lodge and more markers than your opponent, then you'll control that lodge. And the plot cards usually have to do with lodges or different configurations of cards. There's also ranks of cards. So there's 1, 2, 3, king, and ace. And you can also on your turn pick a card where you have at least 1 influence and extort that card, which is where you get those resources from that card, and all adjacent cards of the same rank where you also have influence. So it's good to kind of figure out where you want your markers and try to get things of the same faction, but also of the same rank, and then try to configure cards in a way that's going to get you access to those plot cards. But there's also some interaction in the game as well, because you have the ability to move your markers into spots where your opponent also is. You can try to gain control of a lodge that your opponent has. And then we haven't done it yet in the game, but there's an oust action where you can target an influence marker of your opponent, and then you kind of battle for that spot. Or you have the opportunity to kick your opponent out if you play a higher strength card than your opponent and you have more influence connecting to that piece. So it's a very tight, thinky card game. I found it kind of has multi-use card features of it, because instead of playing a card to the main board, you can, as a free action, play it in front of you and either use an ability on the card or use it once per turn to gain the resources from the card. So there's that. And then a really cool layer of interaction that I found within the game is if you either play a king or an ace on your turn in any area of the board or in front of you, you have to draw 2 of these event cards and pick one and put the other face back down on the deck. And they do things like take all of the resources of one type, even from your opponent, and put it on this card. So now that supply is limited, and then each turn they become back into supply. And then there's also special events that you'll play at the beginning of your next turn and give you a really interesting special ability for that turn, but your opponent gets it as well. So there's a card that, for example, allows you to look at your plot card of your opponent so you know what they're going for, but on their turn, they're going to have to look at yours. So it's as good for your opponent as it is for you. So I found that really interesting, and I think there are cool layers of interaction in this that I think we're going to discover over the next at least 8 plays. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of the gist of the game and the main actions that you can do on the board. Just mainly having to deal with playing cards, placing influence, and moving influence around to get the right positions.
Yeah. And I did notice that our second play of the game went longer than our first play. The first play, I don't know what we did, maybe because we met two plots way faster than the second game, maybe because we kind of were picking up speed, so we kind of knew how to not per se defend ourselves, but we knew how to move a little bit more around the map to make it less beneficial for the other person.
True.
And we started to go on the other individual's cards as well, like paying the resources to
in the second game.
Yeah.
I did find that. I think it seems like a game where the more you know it, it could make it a little bit longer of a game. And it's not a long game. Our second play, even though it was longer, was still only a 30-minute game. I timed it. So the first one was probably 20 minutes flat. The box says 20 to 30 minutes per player, I think. So I would say 30 to 45 minutes at a two-player game once you know it, because as you know it, you're going to try to do things to slow down your opponent or kick them out or do things like that. Our first game, we didn't know what we were doing, so we were just kind of keeping to ourselves, and then we spread out, and then I got 2 plot cards and the game was over.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen. Like, once you know that you can block me from that, you're going to block me from that and prevent me from doing that. You'll know what to look out for.
Yes. You were like, what was that laugh? I'm like,
it was the laugh of an Illuminati leader, a trained.
A trained. But I am very intrigued by this game. I know we've only played it twice, but it hasn't clicked, which is interesting because I do feel that by the second game, I at least know how to do everything. For this one, I'm still kind of stumbling on a few things. Well, on a couple things, and those we discussed about. But the reason it confuses me is just because I don't know. I'm not quite sure why it confuses me. Maybe because I think that it's the card that's down. So, like, let's say I have a king next to one of your cards and it's, I don't know, level 1, right? In my eyes, I'm like, oh, I win, but it's not based off of that. And I have to keep reminding myself that that's not it.
It has a unique way of making you think, this game. And there is something that hasn't quite clicked for me, too. I think I understand the rules. The first play, and the reason we played it 2 times before talking about our initial impressions is the first time I think we were just a little bit confused. We were trying to get the flow of the game. And then the second one, it felt like, okay, let's try to actually play the game how it's intended to be played and understand it a little bit deeper before we talk about how we feel. I felt like we were just learning the game the first time around. Exactly.
That's how I felt too. I was just like, I don't know how to talk about this.
But I want to try it again before we talk about it, which, by the way, I want to talk briefly about teaching the game, because I do think although you will probably want to play this game quite a few times before it clicks, which is the case for us, it seems. It was easy to teach because there are 6 actions that you can do, but you can't do all of those actions on your first turn. There's really only 2 things I think you can realistically do on your first turn. So my method of teaching the game to you was, I'm just going to focus on taking my turn first and show you what 2 options. I haven't explained both of those. Now you do one of those 2 things. Now that I've done that, there's a third option that I can do, and I explained that. So it lent itself well, I think, to teaching as we went. And then as our cards started to come together to the middle of the board, I could explain how you could potentially take over somebody else's area and stuff. So I think if you're somebody who likes to learn as you go, this could be a game that can be taught that way very easily.
Yeah, I liked it that way. I just can't sit and listen to all the ins and outs of games, because then when I get into it, I'm just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So I do like the teaching as you go method. It just makes it easier for my thought process and understanding what I'm doing. And then it builds that muscle memory of like where my hand's moving for what I want to do type deal. Like in high school when you have your locker code, I probably could still go to my locker and do the code.
Interesting. You think so? I like that muscle.
100%, because I could like do it in thin air.
That's funny. So I personally enjoy the method that we learned it too, because I don't like sitting and explaining 1,000 rules. I want to get us playing as quick as I can and then discover it as we go. In my experience teaching games to quite a few people over the span of my board gaming career, I've found that I've had the most success teaching games and where people actually have a good time and want to come back to it if I can get them engaged really quickly. And part of that is having them help set up the game and explaining what things are so they can touch it, but basically walking them through their first turn and getting them playing right away rather than sitting and explaining a bunch of hypothetical situations that might occur that they don't even understand yet. So yeah, that's my approach.
Very fair. So I am excited. I know I don't have that much to say for first impressions, but that's just because I feel like there's so much more to explore on my end that I don't have any really like feedback or anything at this time. So I'm just really excited to get back in and play those 8 and or more rounds.
Me too. I'm really interested by this design. I think that there's some really cool things going on. So looking forward to going in deep on this one. And we'll see how many plays. At least 8 more, but we'll see. And we'll come back after that and talk about our experiences over that span of time. What stood out to us.
And we are back after completing 10 plays of Pax Illuminaten.
Oh, you got the name right.
Yeah, so some might say that I got a little help.
We called it the Illuminati game.
We did. We were just like, oh, it's
for good reason.
Yeah, it has a lot of Illuminati members, and each of the cards actually give a little snapshot of their significance in the Illuminati.
And I was looking up at the designer diaries too, and he did a lot of research into the historical Illuminati, and a lot of the cards in the game are confirmed members of the Illuminati who, through historical evidence, were tied in members, or there were people who it was proven interacted a lot with people who were in the Illuminati, so they were highly suspected of being members themselves. So either way, it was all historically based.
Yes, this game was quite interesting. And as for like thematic sense, I would say that thematically, this game, it nailed the Illuminati.
How so?
Oh, well, you know, when you're part of the Illuminati, you can't talk about the Illuminati. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I don't want to give anything away about the thing that I'm referring to, but it's definitely secret society-esque, and the game has more to hold. So if we return to it after these 10 plays, I would be more than delighted. You were like, wow, that's a quite cryptid way of saying that. And I'm like, yes.
I still feel as though there are new things to discover within the box.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I thought it was really nice. I enjoyed how within each game, it felt as if another layer of the game occurred. Because, you know, for the first 3 rounds that we played,
at least,
I didn't want to oust. I just was not into ousting. I was like, I'm not going to oust. I don't want to do it. And then within the last, 3 plays, or 3 rounds of our 10 rounds / plays of this game, I was just like, no, I need to oust. Otherwise it's going to take too long and I'm going to lose. Because I started out losing and then I came around.
So do you feel like your understanding of the game changed by the end, like knowing the oust action? By the way, that's the action where you can actually kick somebody out of one of their markers off of a card by doing it's like kind of combat in a way. You have to add up your influence on both sides, and then you can add a card, and there's a whole system behind it that's a little daunting. I would say it was probably the most complex aspect of the game. Not that it was super complex once you learned it. There's just some nuances to it that you need to understand.
Yes, I kept relating it to jousting. Every time I saw it,
joust.
I was like, nah, it means joust. Which in a way it kind of does, because you do battle with your opponent that you're trying to kick off the card. So
right.
What happens is you look at the adjacent cards from the card that you decide to do battle with. And depending on the adjacent card, whoever owns them, that person starts with however many points, I guess you would say, or however many power points. And then depending on that, if they have the advantage, then they play a king. They're most likely to win. If they have the disadvantage and they play an ace, they're most likely to win. Otherwise, it's based off of the cards. It's a shield icon, and whatever's in the shield, you add that with the tokens of the cards.
It can be hard to kick somebody out.
Yes,
and you end up wasting
times.
A whole turn or a whole action if you don't succeed. And having that king or ace in your hand, if you have the advantage or disadvantage, is a game changer. But then if you both play them, they cancel each other out. And then the attacker can decide if they want to push and do it again. And then you're also using cards from your hand, and you may be holding onto a card to perform a specific action on your next turn or an ability or something. So it's kind of like push and pull in a way.
Yes. And it adds a layer where you have to really keep track of what your opponent's playing and what cards they're picking up.
Exactly.
Unless they draw from the deck and or go to scout, you don't see those cards if they're drawn from the deck or scouting. So I always was mindful of what cards you were looking at because I knew that I would be going into said games with an oust.
I would say that the feeling of this game changed pretty dramatically from when we talked about our first impression after even playing it 2 times, all the way to maybe, I would say the last 4 times that we played, it felt a lot different. And I think it was understanding some of the nuances of the game and especially using every action that's available to oust. And then there was also the extract action, where you can swap a card from the board with a card from your hand and remake the whole map. Because it's really important to have control over specific lodges of those 4 or more cards of the connected color. But you can, again, divide up that territory or put a card down that you really need to match a plot that you're really trying to go for, which may require a specific suit or to have adjacent cards or of specific ranks or something like that. So once we understood that, I would say you and I both really started paying attention to what the other person was doing. And in those later games, I realized that the game has a really interesting arc because you start kind of doing your own thing on both sides of the board, but you move together pretty quick. And I would say the first plot card that you end up fulfilling happens pretty quick. You'll try to do something really fast. And then it becomes this whole game of watching your opponent. Which other plot card are they going for? Is it the one in their hand or is it one of the second ones on the table? And once you kind of figure out and hone in on what your opponent's trying to do, and you kind of learn all of the plot cards in the deck too, and you can see some patterns on the board, you can really do some hurt to your opponent. Like you came in and I really needed 4 adjacent cards of the same rank and to have influence on them. But you came in and you put a card right where I would have needed one.
Yes.
And
I put a king there.
You put a king, which I can't go in. So it completely blocked me. And you can't just extract a card with an opponent's token on it, which I thought was really cool. You actually have to do the oust action to kick them out. And if you have enough strength around you, it can be hard to do that. There were 2 games of this where I realized there's no way I can win. Like, there's no way I can win. But it's fast. It was like a 20 to 30 minute game for both of us. But I just thought this is a game that really benefits from repeated play and understanding the nuances of the game because it really makes a difference to how the game feels.
Yeah, I'd say so, especially because in the first few plays that we've did, I specifically only used 2 actions. And that was the scout action and then the influence action. I didn't do anything else. I didn't oust. I didn't extort. I always forget the other thing. I have to always be looking at the card. But I didn't decide to go out of my comfort zone until you kept beating me. And I was like, why is he beating me? And it's like, oh, well, he's doing all these different things. So I'm going to do all these different things. I have to get out of my comfort zone and do something different. And I really do feel that out of all the games we've played so far, this one definitely does have an arc to it because the first few plays were just like, okay, like I'm learning. It's taking me a second. And then once you really start going, the games can happen real quick. And it's very strategic and tactical because you have your plot card, you see the plot card so you can strategize, but then you have to be like tactical because your opponent's coming in and wanting to do like, blah, 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 and I'm like, get off my spine.
Yeah, your plans could suddenly change. You could have been wanting to do A, B, and C on your turn, but then you see your opponent is coming into this space that's really contested, like that area of the board is needed, so I'm going to ditch these plans for now to try to move in over there and not let you get it before me, so I'm going to use this action to do that. And then you have all the cards in your hand too, and once you realize how important scheming is in the game, which is just playing cards from your hand onto the table to use them for the ability rather than playing them onto their board. So there's like one time either bonus actions or they'll give you an ongoing benefit for that turn. And once you can chain those together in a good way, and then you can use them to get resources too. So you can find yourself getting a couple of good bonus actions in your turn. And you just have to be able to piece it together all in the right way and see all these moving pieces of the game. And it rewards smart gameplay and understanding the cards in the game, understanding how the cards work together. Oh, there's a lot going on in this game for how relatively simple it is, I would say.
Yeah, I would say it's actually a lot more simple than I initially thought it was. I think The reason that I had reservations with ousting was because I didn't know your hand, but then I was like, well, that's my fault. I don't know your hand. I just need to pay more attention. So then as soon
You
as
actually watched me?
Yeah.
Like, what am I taking?
I was watching you, and I don't know if you noticed, but I would start taking either the kings, aces, or six shields from the display where you could see the cards, you know? Anytime it was my turn to take from there, I would make sure to grab it so that you couldn't if I was about to oust.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was too busy trying to figure out how I was even going to fulfill those plot cards because they were pretty tricky in a couple of those rounds.
Yeah, some of them were really confusing. I just ignored some. I was like, yeah, I'm good. I don't know what to do with that one, so I'm just going to try to fulfill these other ones. But, I also realized too that you need to be using your whole hand on your turn. When we first started playing in the first like 3 plays of the game, I didn't use my whole hand. I would just used those 2 actions that I initially were using. But then I noticed, I could chain all this as long as it has the same symbol. So then that's what I did. I was just like, this one lets me do a bonus action. This one lets me do this. This one lets me do this. And I would go boom, 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 boom. There was one round where I like got to pull cards too. So how many cards did I have? I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I had 6 cards in total instead of 4 because I was able to chain everything.
Oh, yeah. Did you get that bonus from having the lodge of that one color where it increases your hand limit?
No, this one was draw 2 more cards. So I had put cards down and then I had put another one down and did the special action. Is it scheming?
Scheming, yeah.
Yeah, scheming. And one of the scheming actions was draw 2 from the supply pile or whatever it's called in the game. And so I grabbed 2 and they just so happened to be the same symbol of the one that was already on my scheme train. And and so I was like, you know what? I'm going to just use these. So that I decided to use them. And I ended taking like 4 moves that round because of the chain. So then I realized, wow, this is such a missed opportunity when this is a free move technically, because you could do this at any point. Well, not at any point, but during your specific turn, you can use as many as you like until you hit a king. Then the king stops it. But yeah, I was like,
the king stops it.
The king stops it.
So I think that this is another perfect example of a game that creates some distractions that you think are important in the game. But it depends on how your opponent's playing too, because this is a game that ends immediately when somebody fulfills 2 of those plot cards, or if you end up with 5 of these edict event cards in the discard pile. But if you spend too much time engine building, which you can do in this game, and I always get distracted
I know
by,
you're getting distracted.
Your opponent's going to go in and win before you because they're just going to do the things that are required to win. And every game is a little bit different too. The types of plot cards that exist may benefit from more engine building. What do you call it?
Set collection?
Well, not set collection, but having cards work to synergizing. I don't like that term, but that's a good term for it. Some plot cards benefit from that synergy, and others benefit from those quick getting cards out, like those 1 rank cards that only require 1 spot and are easier to play. You kind of get caught up in understanding. You can actually get some cool engines going in this game. If you get 2 or 3 adjacent luminary cards of the same rank, when you do this extort action and collect the resources, you can get a ton of resources if you get those to work together really well. And those are some powerful actions. But those cards are more difficult to play because they require more resources to play to begin with. So you might spend more time putting those out, and then in the long run, it may not actually benefit you. So this game, I've found everything is really well balanced. Every decision is balanced because you can either make quick decisions that don't give you as good of ongoing benefits, but they could win you the game faster, or you could take your time doing something that, again, is going to have better long-term benefits, but is it actually going to help you win the game? But then there's also some hidden layers of balance as well. Like playing a king card or an ace can be really powerful, but then you have to draw 2 of these event cards, which both actually usually benefit you, but they will also benefit your opponent. So you have to balance that. Do I want to play this card that I know is going to be helpful for me, but it'll also let my opponent do the same thing? But you hold on to those until the beginning of the turn that you want to play them. So I can play it on my next turn and benefit from that, but I know when it becomes your turn, you'll be able to do that too. So every decision in this game seems like it comes with a pro and a con. And I thought that was really fascinating. There's so many layers of, I think, very brilliant game design in such a small box. I was really impressed.
Yeah. So I'm going to circle back to when I compared it to chess, because I do see it being that way, because each move in chess could benefit and or not benefit the other player depending on if the other player sees something or not, you know? And that's exactly with this. Like, each move you take may be benefiting the other person to reaching their plot as opposed to maybe benefiting you, but you can't know until they take their move.
Well, I think the last game that we played of this was a perfect example of that, because I played a card that went into something I was trying to do, but then I realized it connected this whole card system of the same colors, so it created a giant lodge that then fulfilled one of the plots, was have a lodge that connects two of your starting cards.
Yeah, control the lodge.
And control the lodge, which you were like one token away. And as soon as I laid that down, I realized I just won you the game.
Yes, you did.
And then I don't think you realized it, on the next turn you did the thing that would win it for you. And then you were ready to pass it to me. And I was like, you actually won the game because you fulfilled that plot card.
No, I took the other plot card.
Oh,
I took the middle
that's right.
control.
You can only do one per turn, which is another cool thing because
you can steal it.
You can steal it. It kind of reminded me of like Reiner Knudsen games like Battle Line. I know you weren't as big of a fan of that. I love that game, but that's a game where you have to win at the beginning of your turn. You have to fulfill the condition and then claim that at the beginning of your next turn. And so your opponent can do things to disarm you when it's their turn to then make it so you can't win at the beginning. So it gave me, like, it reminded me of that in some ways. And also that game has the ranks too. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of has that classic card game feel with the kings and aces and stuff. I had a lot of fun playing this one so many times in a row.
I know. I feel like next time we go to pick it up, that it's going to be an interesting game because you and I haven't played it, you know, for a little bit by the time we return to it, that it's going to be different than these 10 initial plays because all 10 plays were different. So it's a very unique game, I'd say. I look forward to returning to it as it's going to bless the shelf. Is
that what we're deciding? So it'll be crowned by the court's laughter and bestowed upon the jester's shelf?
Yes.
Bless the shelf.
Bless the shelf.
Bless the Huzzah.
Huzzah.
No, I had a really good time with this.
Every time we huzzah, I'm like, I want to go to Run Fair. But yeah, so no, that was super cool. Thank you for taking the time to learn it because I know the rule book was a bit hefty and teaching me it so that we could play. It's very exciting.
It was a little bit hefty, but I thought with reading through it a few times, even understanding the rules, like I don't think that you'll understand it until you get through the motion and the routine of the game and seeing how all the actions work until you've done it yourself. So
yeah, because it's a bit discombobulating in a way.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Well, that was fun, but I have another game.
There's more
that I was excited to get to the table. And in fact, it's one that you may recognize when I give the whole backstory, which it surprised me how short the backstory is, but sometimes you don't need a lot of words to make an impact.
Yeah, like me.
So, I'll explain something for 5 minutes and then I'll say, what do you think? And you'll say, it's great. Okay, we both said the same thing and, you know, a lot different word count. And that's okay.
A lot different word count. I was always bad at the word count in high school.
So we'll do this. I'm going to present this next game. And I think we have the capacity to do some of these 10 by 10 challenge games in a row. Okay. So I think that we'll be able to play this one. Okay. And then release this whole discussion the following week. We'll see. There'll be a challenge that I'm setting.
Okay.
Because I think that we're going to enjoy it. But are you ready? I'm going to give you the backstory to the next game.
Yes.
Create the civilization with the most storied history, starting at the beginning of humankind and reaching into the future. The paths you choose will vary greatly from real-world history. Your civilization is unique. What are your thoughts?
Is it civilization?
Oh, civilization? No, it's... Yeah. Well, keep guessing. So it is a civilization-based game. You can tell from the...
Wait, what was that last part you said? Did you say, like, the future, or did you say space?
What would you like it to say?
Well, no, what did you say?
The paths you choose will vary greatly from real-world history. Your civilization is unique. What did it say reaching into the future?
SETI.
It's not SETI. Were you hoping for SETI?
Well, I'm just guessing.
You're just guessing. Okay.
I'm just trying to guess based off our shelf and what you've talked to me about. Like because when we first started playing board games in general, you would say like, oh, I really want to play this board game. So I'm just kind of like thinking about the titles you've told me and basing that off of this description here.
Do you want me to tell you?
Expeditions.
No, although the game looks awesome.
Okay. Sure, just tell me.
It's Tapestry.
I wouldn't have guessed.
Tapestry, yeah. So Tapestry is a civilization themed game.
Mm-hmm.
I've wanted to play for a very long time. And if you would like to take this journey with me, we played Wormspan in this season. So this is another Stonemaier game we can get to the table and try out.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I like when we do little ones where by the same designer.
I try to do that as much as I can. At least have a couple grouped together. It doesn't work every time, but
okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Well, cool. I'm excited.
Okay. Yeah, we will get into it. We will play 10 games of it. And then, yeah, we should have that. I think we could do it. I think we could wrap that up by next week. Yeah. For
challenge
sure.
accepted.
Yeah, challenge accepted. So yeah, be sure to join us next week to see if that's what we did or not. Otherwise, we'll have like an in-between episode explaining why we didn't do it or why we didn't have time doing it.
Coming up with all kinds of excuses.
Yeah, right. So wish us luck. Thanks for listening to us this week for our Pax Illuminaten. If you want to join us on Instagram, our Instagram is Dice Jesters. We're also on Patreon under Dice Jesters as well. I think Dave actually has like a little video that he made. Yeah, see, look, I'm not talking about my whale video. I'm talking about your video.
I'm going to try to do more of those.
Yeah, so that's exciting. If you want to see, what did you do, a how-to, or what did you do? You just did like a little
film? I just explained the game, set it for the first time. I hadn't played it yet, so just showed off the components and stuff.
Cool, yeah, so you can see that, go say nice things to Dave for me. But otherwise, be sure to join us next week as we venture, there we go, into Tapestry. And as always, be sure to play games with the ones you love.